So I know President Trump said that if Biden gets elected, we're going to have a depression and you better watch out for your 401ks. But really, the historical record speaks different.
The S&P 500 closed at an all-time high today.
All right, welcome to Money Always Talks. I think it's pretty obvious what we're going to be talking about today. Pretty much anything anyone can talk about is the post-election, and basically when it comes to money and markets, how that has affected everything. And to help us figure all that out, we are joined by John Dobosz. John, how's it going?
Hi, Matt. Good to see you again. Yeah, we're all in one piece here. I thought you were going to say the only thing people are talking about is Tom Brady versus Drew Brees, but no, okay, that was just one game. There was a horrible collapse by the Buccaneers, but the election, that was also something up there with something to watch for sure. And then a couple days after the election, what happens? But Pfizer comes out and says, yeah, our vaccine is 90% effective. It didn't say that people were growing third feet or anything like that, but that might come out later. But so far, so good with the vaccine. But that kind of mucked up the whole idea about the stimulus. We were supposed to get $2 trillion, and now people won't die, so we don't need it. And the market didn't like that.
Let me rewind that. Crazy week. Let me rewind it back then. So, all last week, aside from looking at the polls and just the anxiousness in general, I was really anxious to even look at the market because I kept expecting this like Clubber Lang beating to my portfolio, right?
What's your prediction?
Really...
Pain.
And I just really thought that it was just going to get like hammered. And so I was obviously extremely surprised to see that it seemed like every day the market kept going up again. And so that was the first thing I knew I wanted to ask you is like, I thought the market hates uncertainty. So how is it that at the most uncertain time in our country, it just kept shooting up? And, we had something like a bunch of people on the Forbes billionaires list making even more money.
It may have seemed like a really uncertain and anxious time. It was anxious for that matter. But I suppose that the certainty was there, certainty that Biden would win. He didn't win by as much as was predicted, but he still won. There was the expectation that the market would need that injection of fresh stimulus from Congress and from the president. And then Pfizer comes out with the vaccine, like I said, and that's just, that kind of puts in question whether or not we need an additional round of stimulus because the airline stocks were up 20%. Companies, department stores, things that people go out, all these industries that were really hamstrung by the coronavirus were the ones that rose the most. Dave & Buster's, Dave & Buster's where you go to play whack-a-mole and all the
like the adult arcade
basketball games and everything that you touch and put germs on. Well, yeah, they were up like 40%.
I mean, I was reading a bunch of Wall Street takes of saying, if we have a Biden presidency, but we have Mitch McConnell in the Senate, then Biden kind of makes us not have to check our Twitter feeds as often and things are relatively boring in DC. And then you have Mitch McConnell who will block any sort of new tax hikes
radical
or regulation.
Tax hikes. Yep.
Exactly. Do you think that's the consensus?
I think that was a dynamic that the market foresaw. Exactly. Don't forget, Biden's a career politician. He knows how to go along to get along. So he's an operator. One thing that's really wild when you ask most people, has the market done better under Republican presidents or under Democratic presidents? Most people would say that they've done better under Republicans, but it's just the opposite. The S&P 500, for example, since 1950 is up 22.5% average time in office for Republicans, but it's up more than double, 47.6% for Democrats average time in office. Annualized return 3.5% for Republicans. This is since 1950, 12% for Democrats. So I know President Trump said that if Biden gets elected, we're going to have a depression and you better watch out for your 401ks. But really, the historical record speaks differently.
Let's talk about that vaccine again. So, Pfizer comes out with this German partner. They say it's more than 90% effective. So you think that's going to have, do you think that's actually going to have an effect in canceling out, requests for stimulus or getting more money to folks? Because if we can just give out a free vaccine, that probably solves it. Is that the logic?
It certainly gives ammunition to those people in Congress who were inclined not to do another round of stimulus because the stimulus was designed to combat the effects of the disease that the vaccine now allegedly cures or prevents. I heard people talking about the paycheck protection, the payroll protection program, the PPP. Don't forget, 70% of this country's GDP comes from consumption. So they want to make sure that people walking around have money in their pockets to spend. And that might mean some more unemployment backup insurance, but maybe a really skinny PPP or none.
We have pretty much, as a society, seemed to accept the idea that Biden will be the next president. However, obviously, President Trump has gone ahead with a lot of these legal challenges, and we expect things to drag out into the courts for the next few weeks. Does that have any impact on the market as well in terms of instability or?
That remains to be seen. You go back 20 years, don't forget, people are talking about a crazy transition right now. At this point, we weren't even about halfway through the 2000 election because the recounts were still going on in Florida between George W. Bush and Al Gore. At that time, see, everything has context around it. You can't just say, well, this happens, therefore it's going to be bad. You've got to look at what was happening. We were on the other side of the tech bubble, which had kind of burst in April of 2000. So by the time that we voted in November of 2000, the bubble had already kind of popped. No one knew how bad it would get. And we were still about 9 months away from 9/11, 10 months away from 9/11. So there were all these things going on and the market didn't do well during that transition. Somebody asked me recently, about their 401k because Biden won. And I was like, dude, what matters is how old you are and what kind of risk you can take. We've talked about this stuff before. If you're looking for a crystal ball, you've come to the wrong address, Jack.
All right, time to wrap it up, but let's rewind and go over what we learned. So how did the US election impact the stock market? Well, even though it was a very uncertain time for the country, the stock market went up. Investors seem happy with the idea of a divided government of Democrats in the White House and Republicans controlling the Senate. This prevents any drastic tax hikes or changes in regulation. Pfizer's announcement of its COVID-19 vaccine tests was the other big piece of news that made the market hot, as industries largely battered by the virus, such as airlines and department stores, saw their share prices go up. The vaccine news also presents the question of whether or not we will need another round of stimulus checks. However, keep in mind that Donald Trump has not yet conceded the race and is contesting the result of the election, so the market could still react to any further political developments. Thanks for watching Money Always Talks. We'll be back soon to figure out what else money is trying to tell us.